Hello from Siena. It is the 19th of March, and I'm not sure if you can read this, but it is the feast day of San Giuseppe. San Giuseppe, Saint Joseph. So if your name is Joseph, buon onomastico, tanti auguri, which means happy namesake day. And if you are a father, happy Father's Day. My father happens to be called Joseph, so happy everything to my dad, the best in the whole wide world. Okay, so who was Saint Joseph? Well, I think most of you know he was the foster father of Jesus Christ, but if you would like to know more, I highly recommend this book for all of your saints' needs. It is the Oxford Dictionary of Saints, and I bought this in grad school all those years ago, and I still consult it, oh gosh, religiously. Sorry for the pun. Today, I kid you not, I opened it up directly to the page of Saint Joseph. So coincidence or fate? Yes. Now, what exactly do we know about Saint Joseph? Well, the answer is not much. He's mentioned in the Gospels of Matthew and Luke, and in the book of Matthew, we have the lineage of Joseph being traced. You'll see Abraham begat Isaac, begat Jacob, etc., etc., until we get to Jesse begat David, begat Solomon, etc., etc., until we get to another Jacob who begat Joseph, the husband of Mary, of whom was born Christ. And why is it important to have that link between Old and New Testament? Well, it's to show that Christ was always meant to be. God created Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. He gave them free will. He anticipated their betrayal and sin. Original sin is what we are all born with. However, the Virgin Mary was born without it, but that story is for another day. And Joseph was chosen to be her husband, as she was chosen to be the mother of God, through whom all sins would be cleansed. How is Joseph represented in art, and how might you recognize him? Let's look at some examples together. So we know where Joseph is mentioned in scripture, but what about the rest of the story? Well, there was a book called The Golden Legend published in the 13th century that kind of supplemented the stories of the saints. Now, when Mary left the temple, she needed to be married off because she was of the right age. All of the eligible bachelors were asked to come to the temple and bring with them a rod. Joseph was a bit older, and so he did not want to present himself, but he was convinced and he brought his rod, and when he came in contact with the Virgin Mary, his rod flowered, showing that he was indeed the one chosen by God to be her husband. Joseph is always represented in scenes of the Nativity or the birth of Christ in the manger in Bethlehem. Here he seems to have fallen asleep after the rather momentous event. Joseph was very much a protective father, and when King Herod issued the decree that all male children in the realm under the age of 2 were to be slaughtered, Joseph did what any good father would do, and he and his family escaped. In this wonderful painting by Federico Barocci, we see Joseph giving his son some cherries as they take a well-deserved break during this rather terrifying time. You've probably seen hundreds of examples of the Virgin Mary holding the infant Christ, but what about Saint Joseph? Well, here's one of my absolute favorites. It just melts my heart. And what about other images? Well, you know that Saint Joseph was a carpenter, and in fact, he's the patron saint of carpenters and manual laborers. The boy looks at his father in awe, as sons are wont to do when their fathers are working. And just as fathers teach and protect their children, sometimes they must also discipline them. This has got to be one of my favorite paintings because it's one of the rare instances where Christ is represented as an adolescent. And just look at the way his arms are crossed. You can see that Mary and Joseph have scolded him after he went away for a few days and they were worried sick. But he, in that rebellious teenage fashion, seems to say, you know what? I don't care. I'm God. That's all I've got for now. Thank you so much for following along and learning about St. Joseph with me. I hope that you've enjoyed the images and the stories. And of course, if your name is Joseph or Giuseppe, buon onomastico. If you are a father, happy Father's Day. And I leave you with this picture of my dad, my sister Sarah, and me from many, many moons ago. Ciao.